let's talk about strings. In C, when you did strings, strings were simply character arrays with the null termination character at the end. Okay, so the \0 or just it's the actual value 0 was your termination of the C string. That is completely different in C++. We have a thing called string. First thing, strings are not null terminated. If you put the null termination character into your string, you'll have it in your string, but it will be as a character in your string. Okay? So you can't just easily compare a standard string with a C string. Okay? C-style strings we call C strings. And we can convert standard strings to C strings if we need to, if we do need to use some C library functions. Okay? But by default, use standard string from this point onwards. Okay? It's very powerful. Okay? It allows you to actually treat it as a container. What it means is, instead of just being an array, we can actually iterate over individual components of it. We can treat it like an array in the sense of we can use the square braces there to access individual characters inside it. Again, that's very similar to C. Okay? But the problem with using the square brackets is we can go over the bounds of the string, the same as we can go over the bounds of an array with a C-style string. Okay? So we can use @. And so we've got these functions that operate on the string as well. We can use find to go and find a particular value inside a string. Okay? We can add things to the end of a string. Okay? And there's a whole ton of other functions that we can use. Again, you can look this up in the documentation online about what you can do with a standard string. Okay? But standard strings are very, very powerful, and they're quite different to how they operate to C-style strings. So we have an example of this. Okay? And again, I'll bring up this program. Okay. This is simple string.cpp. Okay? And this is asking you to enter your name. Okay? And that prints out your name, and then for program ends. Okay? So everyone should be able to just look at that code, know what that code does. Okay? So, enter your name, Brad. And it says, hello, Brad. Okay? Enter your name, Bob, and it says, hello, Bob. Okay? Really, really straightforward, really simple. Okay? And what you're seeing there on the left-hand screen is, again, we're using the input and output redirection. Okay? So we're printing, please enter your name to the console using output redirection, and we're reading into the string name from the input redirection. Okay? We're also making a const string on the next line down. Okay? Doesn't have to be const, but we're making a const string on the next line down by appending the strings together. So using a plus, we can append the strings together. Okay? And then we print it out. Now that's all very exciting, but our program doesn't do much. So what happens if we want to say hello to a lot of people? Okay? We can stick it in a loop. We can stick please enter your name, and then get the standard cin redirection to name. Okay? Stick it in a while loop. And if we make that, okay, so this is manypeople.cpp. Okay, says enter your name. So enter Brad. Says hello Brad. Enter your name. Enter Bob. Says hello Bob. Enter your name. Says enter Jane. Says hello Jane. And it's just going to keep looping and looping and looping. Okay. Now there's a couple of questions we've got on the bottom of the slide. What happens if we enter a blank name? Okay, so once I press enter. Keep on pressing enter. Okay, nothing happens. Then I enter Doug. Okay. It says hello Doug. Enter your name. Okay, so what's happening there is it keeps on ignoring blank space. Okay, what happens if I enter multiple names? Okay, so I want to say hello to Peter and Jimmy and Sean. Okay, what do people think is going to happen here? What's it going to say? As one line or multiple lines? As multiple lines. Yep. So I do that, and it says hello Peter over there, hello Jimmy there, and hello Sean there. But also note what's going on with the output. Okay, so it's printed the same thing again. Please enter your name. Okay, so it's got a little bit confused with the prints. Okay, and that's because of the nature of that for loop there. Okay. So then the final question on that slide is, when does the while loop stop? How do I stop this while loop? How am I going to stop this while loop? Okay, so that is actually the correct answer. So how do I stop it? I can send it Control D. Okay, Control D means end of input, end of file. Okay, send it Control D, and the program terminates. Okay, terminates cleanly. I probably shouldn't be terminating this with Control C. Okay, if I terminate this with Control C, I'm terminating the program at that point. Okay, terminating the whole program. Control D just says end of file, so if I had extra code further down, that next set of code below that while loop would run. Okay? So if you're stuck in an input, and it's just an input loop, it just keeps on looping, saying enter some data, enter some data, enter some data. Control D, not Control C. Okay? Okay, so some of this we mentioned on the previous couple of slides, okay? But there's a whole lot of stuff that we can do with the string interface, okay? Also be aware that when we just create a string by itself, it's by default initialized as an empty string. Okay? So if we create a string and we don't make it equal to anything, okay, it gets default initialized to an empty string. Okay? So length of that empty string will be 0. It doesn't mean it's going to be defaulted to a null, a \0. It doesn't mean that. It just means it's got nothing in it. It's completely empty.